lose all sense of reality and enter another world. Remember, do not underestimate the power of PlayStation.
Cool.
Bet you missed this.
Josh writes into beyond at ign.com just like you can. It says Beyond.
Beyond.
With the recent announcement of Freedom Wars having a release date in October, I started wondering, why didn't they announce this on the stage at Gamescom? Seems like a missed opportunity. Is Sony now actively avoiding marketing the Vita? Will we see any marketing push for Freedom Wars, or is it doomed to fade into obscurity? Thanks and Beyond.
Yeah, it's a great question. I thought for sure Freedom Wars would be on the stage. Because that is a big game for them.
I mean, that feels like a really good TGS thing. That doesn't help with the Western release date, obviously.
But it's out already in Japan. So it's like
weird. Never mind.
So it's a terrible TGS thing, actually.
And heads up, everybody.
And this is why I'm not head of marketing at Sony.
So let me read number 5, and we'll get to that question because it answers it.
It's all linked together.
Number 5, in response to wide complaints on the internet of a lack of love for Vita at Sony's Gamescom press conference, Shoni Shahid Ahmad, who's a friend of Podcast Beyond, whose job it is to secure games for Vita and other PlayStation platforms, tweeted out a number of games in the pipe for the handheld, including Papers, Please, Tales of Hearts R, Velocity 2X, Hotline Miami 2, Wrong Number, Broforce Volume, and more.
Minecraft.
He also promises that many more games are in the pipe. In a separate interview, Shuhei Yoshida made note of something he told us at E3, that Sony doesn't want the press conferences to go too long, and that Vita fans are so dedicated that Sony expects that they'll find the news they seek without having to tell the wider public. To me, that's, and that's just a paraphrase. That's not his exact wording, but that's basically what he said, and he told us that at E3. That's the wrong move for Vita. Vita will be doomed to the niche and eventually to fail if they don't give it more time. I don't really understand what they're thinking with PS Vita. And Freedom Wars, he's absolutely right, was a perfect game to have something on Gamescom's stage for. Not only the release date announcement, not only a token thing, but gameplay. And show people the game and tell them why it's important, tell them why they want to play it. They aren't doing right by Vita. Period.
Well, I mean, for what they want, apparently it's okay. Is it the marker that hit me?
Yeah.
Not your luscious fingers.
No, stop touching me like that. I don't like it. I like it a little too much.
I like the reverse turnaround touch.
That's what I think.
You got some moves.
I use them all in
Christine's
college.
a lucky lady.
No, I think what we're talking about, right, is you're saying they're not doing right by the Vita. They're not. But in their mind, they are. It's their system, right? They're doing right by the battle plan they have laid out.
Which is what? Ignore it?
Yeah. You and I are gonna fall for the same trap every week and tell people to buy it in Minecraft and Persona. So what do they care? Because the hardcore are buying it, and the hardcore are making it at least profitable enough that that's what they want out of it.
Plus, if they really do have a finite amount of time on stage and they can spend 6 minutes or 4 minutes or whatever it is talking about Freedom Wars, which realistically, right, let's say that game even does $1 million, that would be huge for them. Or a PS4 game that's probably going to do $5 million and be at a higher MSRP and make them more money. Just from a pure numbers standpoint, it's probably smarter to focus on the PS4 game. I love the Vita. I agree with you. But I'm just saying. Oh, I do.
No, I don't agree that it probably makes financial sense to focus on PS4, especially because there's all these complaints that PS4 has no games, which we know isn't true. Same complaint as Vita, which we know isn't true. I just wonder how they expect this to get any better. And I think that their expectation is that they think it's not going to get better, so they shouldn't even try. But I say, try.
I think their
you have to try.
Is good enough, and they're fine with it. We're going to get to the list of games that came out this week. There's a whole bunch of stuff. We talk about everything that he was talking about on Twitter of these games coming out. There's a lot of good stuff coming out.
Yeah, but you can make it better. Optically, you can make it better even. And you can convince people. It's not our job to, I'm glad that people, take our advice and buy games that we like or that we recommend or hardware or whatever. Ultimately, that's not what we're here to do. And so you can't rely on, people's, just token kind of, I like the Vita kind of thing to sell Vitas. It's you got to prove to people in a more commercial sense, why they need to buy the handheld because it's your product. And I... the crappy thing about Vita is that it's in a death spiral that Sony is helping to. It is
7-year tailspin.
Thank you. You knew exactly what my mind jumped to, because that was going to be my example too. Of they're why don't they give it a chance? That they tried hard with PSP and it never worked that way.
PSP sold 80 million units.
Exactly, based on people like us who are this is great, man. I love Rock Band Unplugged. I love Patapon.
I don't think that's fair, because PSP had super early sales that were heavy because they had lots of games on it,
and then they had the 7-year tailspin of this thing has no games. It has so many games. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. The install base was much higher earlier when PSP was still relevant. PSP was really big in North America for a couple of years. And we all remember that. I was in college when that happened, and we had Grand Theft Auto and all these kinds of games. Death Jr.
No one.
Mega
no
Man
one's
Maverick
like,
Hunter
"That's
X."
changed."
That was the one that turned everything around.
I don't know. It's just frustrating to me because I feel like, someone made a recommendation. I don't know where I read it. Like, Sony should just start doing Nintendo Direct style things for Vita.
For Vita, yeah. So,
that's a great idea.
So I think it's two separate points, right? The are they giving up on Vita? Do they need to do stuff for Vita? Yes. I mean, they need to do more in general. And then the separate point of, like the Vita sells itself, the people who want Vita stuff will seek it out, I think is bad. Because, I mean, there's a reason like Coca-Cola still advertises every year. Like if you think about the millions of dollars Coke probably spends in advertising every year, when if they just didn't, if they were like, we're just not going to advertise this year, like the amount of money they would lose in sold Cokes would probably still be less than the amount of money they would save in advertising. But they advertise because it's about keeping it out there and
Sure.
brand awareness. And if you wait long enough, something surpasses it and blah, blah, blah. I think with the Vita, like, at a certain point, if they just literally stop talking about it because they figure the audience will self-regulate, no, it won't, and the audience will slowly shrink. And yeah, I mean, they need to get word out there, but I think that's the answer. I think dedicated events and time to focus and explain what the Vita is in a separate event makes a lot more sense than, sure, they could have shown Freedom Wars for a few minutes in that press conference, in between two gorgeous 60 frames per second 1080p games. Like, is that really the best place to show that? I don't think so. I think it probably would have been overshadowed by bigger stuff. I mean, that's the E3 press conference thing in general people always talk about, is like, if you're on stage for your 3 minutes and you're sandwiched in between Call of Duty and Destiny, like, guess which game people aren't talking about afterwards? It's your little 3 minute. So I think there's a need to talk about Vita. I agree with that, but I think a place like Gamescom is probably not it. Unless they have like a dedicated 30-minute block, which they obviously didn't have this year.
Users lose all sense of reality and enter another world. Remember, do not underestimate the power of PlayStation.